This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Tyler. My guest today is Rhiana Spring. Rhiana is joining us from Bern in Switzerland. She's an award-winning international human rights expert and entrepreneur. As part of the United Nations, the Swiss Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and diverse legal teams, Rhiana has defended the most vulnerable and led multinational human rights projects across 4 continents and 18 countries. But then, in 2021, Rhiana founded Spring Action Compassion Technology, which launched Sophia, the world's first chatbot, empowering survivors of domestic violence to gather potential evidence and seek help in every country in the world. Wow. For her work, Rhiana has been awarded by the President of Switzerland with the Swiss Youth and Future Prize, multiple awards for innovation, has been recognized by MIT and European Union. She has studied law at Harvard University and London School of Economics. Rhiana, welcome.
Wow, thank you, Anna. What a nice introduction. That's lovely to
Oh, there was so much more. I had to cut this because I researched your work and I really wanted to tell everything you've done until now in detail because it's so fascinating what you've done. But then I decided, let's just talk about it instead of me having a big monologue about your experience.
Lovely.
But I am absolutely impressed and excited that there are people like you in the world who put all their energy and talents into helping others. That's so fantastic. Congratulations again to your newest adventure.
Thank you. Thank you. There's no better way to live your life than supporting others, I believe.
I know. But tell me about this latest adventure. Should we start with the latest, which is Sophia? Tell me about Sophia.
Yeah, when you said latest adventure, I'm like, what are you referring to? Because we actually have an even latest and more recent adventure. We're actually there's a lot of launches happening in the next few months, and a few are Sophia related, but we actually have a new product coming out just very briefly, and we're happy to go into Sophia. So that's our latest adventure is Comeback Cats. It's an app that goes to the root causes of violence against women, which is stereotyping and gender objectification and gender stereotyping, which then leads to violence against women. And what we're doing is we're building an app that empowers people to like get over their imposter syndrome on one hand, and trains them on with witty comebacks to everyday sexist comments, all in a like gamified way that makes it fun again. I joke about it, makes it fun again to combat social injustices. So that's our really recent adventure that we're going on. But Sophia the Comeback Cats was something that I developed before even Sophia, and then we were doing Sophia and it took off and hit a nerve of society. So I'm happy to talk about Sophia.
But tell me about Sophia. There's one thing that I'm very, very curious about. Now that I've interviewed so many women across the world and they've been opening my eyes to issues across the world, being a woman of the West, we kind of tend to get a little sleepy on our bay leaves and forget that the struggle is still going in 99% of the world or 90% of the world. So a lot of women who encounter domestic violence are in poorer developing countries and not very good economic situations. How do they have access to a chat bot?
Yes, I love that you brought that up. We definitely are a lot of us are resting on our privilege. And I think we need to really, that's part of my life mission, is to make sure that we use that privilege for good, recognize it and use it for good. Just a very quick disclaimer in the sense of I'll go into the countries with a less economic power and how domestic violence is there. But it's really important for listeners to know that domestic violence is in every single country in the world. There's no one country that is without domestic violence, and it doesn't matter what your social status is in those countries. So it affects people that are wealthy, it affects people that are in poverty, it affects every single ethnicity, it affects every single gender, every single social class. So the effects are then different. What makes it really hard, really hard in poverty, or if you don't have financial independence, which is in many countries, is then breaking free. So how do you break free if you are financially dependent on your abusive partner? That's something that we are talking a lot about with Sophia, is making you aware of financial abuse and all the different types of abuse, and what you can do in those situations. And one impactful partnership that we are going into is with Social Income, which is in Sierra Leone. So I'll start there. They are a Swiss NGO, but Swiss and Sierra Leonean NGO that provides us a universal basic income. So it asks people like you and me in privilege to donate 1% of our income. And then with that, we can provide universal basic income to people at the moment in Sierra Leone. It's and it doesn't just have to be us. My friend from Senegal is donating 1% of her income. And we're partnering with them to then eventually, when we launch in Sierra Leone, we'll be able to provide this universal basic income to domestic violence survivors. So they can leave their abusive relationship and know that for the next 2 to 3 years, their income is secured. They don't, if they can have that time to rebuild their lives, deal with the trauma, etc. And with regard to chatbots, that's one of my favorite questions that a lot of people ask is, what about the global south and chatbots there? That's, again, speaking out of a lot of privilege. I have to explain way more here what a chatbot is than in the global south. So when we developed Sophia, this was 3 years pre the known ChatGPT, right? Nobody knew what a chatbot was. Here I had to chatbox, what is that? And I had to explain what it was. I went to Ethiopia explaining that I developed a chatbot, Sophia. They're like, yep. How do let me know? Oh yeah, there she is. And just like, they use bots for everything, down in Ethiopia, for example.
That's fascinating. Will you tell me a little bit how it works?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Sophia works in 3 main ways that we call GAL, that you can remember a bit easier. GAL, she helps you gather potential evidence of the abuse that is happening, and you can store it in our digital safe that is encrypted and secure until you're ready to leave. She helps you, assess your rights. And so knowing what your rights are as a survivor, as a civilian in the country, what are your options for police, what are the police protections, etc. And L, learn about your options, about where you can find the nearest support shelter and general support available to you.
Why would we want to use a chatbot instead of human social workers in this situation?
Yeah, it's super important that we talk about that, because it's a complementary service to social workers. So if you chat to Sophia, you'll see that she keeps on going like, hey, can I guide you to the next support service? Can I guide you to the next support service? The reality is that even though 1 in 3 women in the world, many children, many men, experience domestic violence, the threshold for reaching out to help is enormous. So 40% only reach out for help. Despite every 1 in 3 women, only 40% reach out for help. Of those 40%, only 10% go to the police. So Sophia is really there just as the low barrier threshold to get over and talk anonymously without anyone having to know. And then also, of course, very important, the new generation. So millennials already, Gen Z 100% prefer chatting than calling up or going on. So just getting that information.
How did you get into all of this? Will you tell me a little bit about your journey before we jump into talking about Mama?
Of course. Yes. Well, I just wrote about it today on my LinkedIn. I just became a Google ambassador for women in tech, and I was reflecting on my journey of how did I get here in that sense. And I taught myself to code when I was 17, and that was all. And then my heart was always in human rights. I knew I wanted to go into human rights ever since I was 12. and studied international human rights law and had a career in that. And now those two are merging. So before then, I was always this random thing on my CV. You know, I had an IT consultancy firm, like that's so random, but now it just comes together. So when I was working in the field in West Africa, I saw that there's this gap between the resources available and the people that need them. And so that's how I started on this journey of creating this tech that bridges this gap.
Do you see potential all over the world for technology to help and support with human rights?
Not just potential, absolute necessity. I mean, we have this tech, these, you know, it's all the companies that use the technology. So chatbots have been on company websites for a long time. And that's great. It helps, you know, it drives revenue, etc., and it helps the companies. But just imagine technology can help all these people that need support all around the world. And one example is chatbot, Sophia. We know we built this, you know, in Switzerland, a few of us, and now we have a team all over the world. But, you know, there's only a handful of us. And we can help people in 143 countries at the moment. People have chatted to Sophia. So the impact you can have and accelerate and expand through technology is the NGO sector, the UN, the international development sector needs to like jump on this way quicker.
How many people have used it already, or do you have any statistics yet about its successes?
Yes, since the launch in December 21, over nearly 40,000 people have chatted to Sophia from 143 countries. Yeah.
Fantastic. Continue the great work. I'm so excited about it. But let's mention the basics, which we talked about before we turned on the loudspeakers, the microphones and record buttons. You were born in Switzerland and raised in Switzerland to a mom who's from Ireland?
From Wales, yeah.
From Wales, I'm sorry. I mixed it all up. And then you went to study in the UK. And that's the accent. And that's Mom Lorraine. So let's talk about Mom Lorraine. I'm very excited to talk about her. My very last guest had a very, very difficult relationship with her mom. Yeah. So when you said, I can't wait to talk about my mom, I love her so much, this was a little refreshing to me because I've read my last guest's book, which was quite hard. Yeah. But it's important we talk about these relationships as well. But now I'm excited to hear about Mom Lorraine. Tell me about her. What is her life story?
Love to. So my mum, Rhiana Spring, is, yeah, like you said, I love her. She's my best friend. She's my inspiration. She's the most courageous, inspiring, and beautiful human being I think this world has ever seen. She inspires me every single day, and including is her story. So my mum, grew up in Wales, but all over the world as well. She moved houses. So where she is now is the 51st time that she moved in her life.
51st.
Yeah. So she's moved 51 times. And she left home when she was only 16 years old. So everything that I'm going to talk about today, she built by herself. She had no support. Everything, the human being that she is today, she has built completely by herself. So left home when she was 16.
May I interrupt you? I'm sorry. And you can say no if you don't want to talk about things. Why did she leave home? Obviously, she wasn't happy.
Difficult relationship. Well, difficult relationship with her father. I would say a difficult father.
Okay.
He kicked her out when she was 16. That's why she.
And what was the relationship with her mom like?
It was, well, her father was difficult, and so she was very small behind him in that sense. She didn't have, I think, the courage or the power to do anything. So she was more in his shadow until recently, and she's really now blossomed up, and they have a beautiful relationship. Never had a difficult relationship, just not. Yeah.
She was. Yeah. Okay, I understand. Okay, so 16, left the house.
Left the home with 16. went to train as a nurse in one of the biggest hospitals in London. So she was, from a very young age, already in the heart of all this, medical world and everything that happens to us human beings, including a terrorist attack in London. She was not part of that, but there was a terrorist attack in London and in the subways, and all the victims came to the hospital. So that's kind of the life that my mum had very early on in all these shift work and helping people in that sense. She then, from that, managed to get herself into Oxford University to study the Chinese language. And from there, she became a 5-element acupuncture therapist. It's, acupuncture comes from the East, and she found her way to this specialist acupuncture, which is 5 elements based on looking at the patient as a whole rather than the symptoms, which traditional Chinese medicine does. And then from throughout all of this, she's a massive traveler. So she at one point went on a travels through Europe on a red double-decker bus that they had bought and furnished, that she could drive around Europe in that travel. And during those travels, she landed in Lisbon on the day of the coup. She went through Turkey when there was a revolution going on. On another adventure, she went alone. This is the first one with friends, but alone on the Trans-Siberian Express from Peking to Moscow, and was in China before, in Maoist China. So in an era that it's difficult for us to even imagine, before it was even open to the foreigners, she was there. And last but not least, I've just picked a few crazy travel that she's been on. She also went hitchhiking, again, by herself as a woman, through the Americas as well. So that's her travels. And just to explain the adventurous, amazing mum that I am. So that's kind of the travel adventures that she's done, but that never stopped. So she still travels all the time, and she goes on different adventures, like skydived with me when she was 55 she came to watch me. I'm like, come on, Mom, you wanted to do this, come with me. And it's, I don't have any trousers with her. I'm like, oh, I've got some spare ones. And so she and skydived with me when she was 55, and otherwise has passions like tango and salsa dancing all the time. She plays a saxophone, and now she's coming into her third part of life, I would say.
How old is she now?
She's now I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, 71. And she's now becoming an author. So she published a children's book, but now is on her other book, or second book in that sense, which is also connected to the workshops that she gives for health professionals and general executive. Her book and workshops are called Finding Your Element. So it's this. What she does is brings this ancient Chinese medicine and philosophy to our modern world, and you can learn to hone your potential, to build on your strengths and improve your communication with others, all based on the 5 archetypes that come from a 3,000-year-old practice, which could be more kind of relevant to today's world. So that's in a nutshell.
I want the book. Where can I find the book?
Oh yeah, she's writing it.
She's just writing that now.
She's writing it, and I'm hoping that we can collaborate actually together with my new app. It's also very central of my new app, that this personality type that you can help, know yourself better and build on your strengths and weaknesses to then combat social injustices.
Fascinating. May I ask a little bit about her private life, or her husband, your dad? Does she have more children?
Yeah, when I told my mom, she's like, oh yeah, mention my 2 children as well. And I was joking, at least one is good. No, I'm kidding. My brother's wonderful. I have a younger brother who's now also an acupuncture therapist. We're extremely close as a family. My dad and her separated long time ago when we were still children, but they're very good friends. So we all live very close to each other and are very, very close.
How did you deal with the separation?
I was very young.
Okay.
I was very, very young. They did it really well because they always remained friends. So there was never words of animosity or anger or anything. They always remained friends. My dad even goes my dad went to her for acupuncture therapy for a long time, even though we're split up. My mum puts my dad in as a reference when she goes for a new flat. They both think so highly of each other. They both, individually say the other person is the best acupuncture therapist and doctor, etc. Yeah, so they did an amazing job.
As Gwyneth Paltrow would say, conscious uncoupling.
Conscious uncoupling, yeah. That's
nice. That's wonderful. Let's learn from Mom Lorraine. She sounds like such an amazing person. What do you feel are the most important things you've learned from her?
You sent me that question before, and I gave it some deep thought, because she's given me so much, and
I know.
I've narrowed it down to 3 or 4.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very hard. But she's had a really big impact on my life. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing today without her being her, basically. So I would say one of the biggest lessons that she's given me in life is how much unconditional support and love can be the wings for someone to fly and succeed. I've always been a bit different, even as a kid, and was bullied quite a lot. And my mum didn't matter. I was wearing all kinds of crazy stuff and going to school in that, and it just didn't matter. My mum just loved it. She just anything I wore, from, mismatching shoes to, I was always into human rights. So we have specific colors to show the left wing, etc. And so, it didn't matter what I wore, didn't matter what she was just always stand beside me and support me in that sense. And that gave me that strength and that strength and that power to go forward in the world. And I think that's so important. Unconditional support, what that can do for a person. And kind of linked to that is also what she taught me is being your authentic self. So a lot of people say, I come across very authentic. I'm an authentic person. I think that's very much down to my mum. Linked to that, right? So no matter what happened, she supported me, and through that I could be my authentic self, even though it was sometimes difficult in that sense.
And the fourth one? No, the third one.
I can go through them. Very happy to do that. Third, honestly, for me, is life's an adventure. I mean, listen to my mum's story. She's always on an adventure, and people that don't know my mum and know me, continuously say I'm on an adventure, and then they meet my mum and like, a lot of things make sense now. So really, and I treat that as well. Life is short. It's an adventure. Go and explore new places. I've lived in different countries. I've done lots of different cool stuff, and using my life to support others. I think it's really important. Life is an adventure. And last but not least, my mum is a really open person, really open for new experiences, new perspectives, new opinions, and really warm and nurturing, as well as powerful and strong. And I think that's a really important lesson, is that you can be, open and compassionate, and really strong and powerful at the same time. And I'm really proud of my an example of this is there's Pride in Switzerland. I always go to the one in the bigger city, and I didn't even know there was one happening in our city. And my mum knew, and she's like, hey, should we go to the Pride on the weekend? And you've got to think about putting this in perspective. My mum was in her 20s when homosexuality got decriminalized in the UK. So until she was an adult, this was a crime. And here she is, 71, and she's like, let's go and demonstrate for pride and love for all. It's so beautiful, and a rare trait. The older you get, the more closed-minded a lot of people get, and my mum is just the more open-minded she gets. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Do you have any other lessons as you speak that you would really like to mention?
I think those for me are the strongest.
Those are the strongest. But then I don't know if I told you, but one of the most important parts of these conversations turned out to be, what do we wish our mothers have taught us? Did you give that a thought? Do you have any lessons you wish she taught you or was able to teach you? Something important you had to learn by yourself?
Yeah, I really like that question, because it's not. Of course, there's lots of facets to life, and of course there's things of shortcomings or things that she would have herself loved to have taught me and couldn't. So I did think of two, and I kind of practiced it before because I'm like, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, because I love my mum and everything she gave me, and also things she didn't give me, formed who I am today. So I wouldn't say she didn't give me, but there's two things I can think of that I had to learn myself, or am learning myself. One is, setting down roots. So I've left when I was 18, and studied in the UK, lived all over the world, and I'm just eager for the, let's go here next and there next. And my mum, with having moved 51 times, different countries, found it very difficult to find home. I think she's found home now. She lives right next door. I have my office in my mum's place. She lives next door. She sees her grandkids, my brother's kids, every day. And I think she's really found home now, but it took a long time. And I'm looking into how can I find roots and still be who I am, basically. I think that's one thing, and I think she would agree with that. And the other lesson I think that I had to learn myself is self-love. And my mum loves me so she could not have given me more love, but she doesn't see the amazing person that she is, that all her patients, I mean, what her patients say about her family says about her, any person that's ever met her says about her, is she's this light, and she in the world, and she helps so many people, and so many people have been able to develop their potential thanks to her, and she does not see that. She sees her shortcomings. She sees she could have done that. She should do this. She wants to do this. She doesn't see like, oh my God, everything that I've done. And so it doesn't matter how much love you give someone, if you don't love yourself, that's something that you can't teach in that sense.
Are you working on this too?
Yeah, I think everyone struggles with self-love. And in our world, it's not something that we're generally taught. And so I'm definitely working on it. I think, as everyone is.
Rhiana, I'm trying to teach my son this. And it is fascinating seeing a 9-year-old, or when I started, he was even younger, his reaction to this concept of self-love and loving yourself, because it's so pure, his reaction, and he still rejects it as something that's bad.
Wow.
It's very difficult for him to understand that it's not egoistic, and it's not narcissistic, and it's not negative in any shape or form. So it's interesting talking to a child about self-love and loving yourself and supporting yourself, because I think I recognize in that a lot of these things that we have deeply ingrained in ourselves, and that are obviously so deeply programmed in us, and I don't know why and where from. I don't know, where does he have this concept from that it's negative?
It's interesting, even as a kid, like, where did he learn this?
Where did he learn this? Why does he have such a really strong negative reaction to that of, no, you can't love yourself, that's bad, you have to love other people, and that's negative? And it's I don't know. This is a huge topic to think about. Is this something we are somehow projecting in the, I don't know, tales, cartoons, movies? I don't know. But it's so deeply rooted into our systems, obviously. We all have to work on it.
Yeah. Yes. I'm surprised a young person like that needs to work on it. I'm sure that, in general, I wouldn't have expected that to start so early.
Yeah. Interesting.
Weird.
Yeah. Rhiana, this was so beautiful. Thank you. You're so prepared and so ready to share.
I was so excited when you invited me onto this podcast. And usually I talk about my work, which is important, to advocate, and people know about Sophia that can help them. And when I read that this is about my mom, I'm like, when can I come? My mom, everyone needs to know about my mom.
But what's beautiful is to recognize how this is all interconnected, how your mom and her support, and who she is and what she is doing, helping people, being a nurse and then becoming an acupuncturist. What a big part that is of what you are doing, helping people. and fighting for their rights and supporting them in your way. So that's beautiful, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be who I am today without my mum.
I know. Is there anything we missed? Anything you'd still like to mention?
No, I think my mum's whole life story. I hope yeah, I think that's all.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just very quickly recap. We talked about unconditional love and support, which gave you wings and power to achieve everything you did and being your authentic self. What huge, huge, huge lessons. And that life is an adventure. So important with everything you've done as well. And that this one is very interesting, that you can be simultaneously open and warm and nurturing and compassionate, but also strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's very an interesting topic. And then when we talked about something you wish she had taught you, we talked about being able to set down roots but still be free.
Yes.
And the never-ending story of or topic of self-love.
Yeah.
Which the best of them are obviously missing. Rhiana, thank you again. I will put a link to your amazing work in the episode notes so people can find you if they're interested. And please keep on going.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this lovely conversation and your wonderful podcast honoring mothers. I think that's just, I get goosebumps every time I think about it. It's such a wonderful thing that you're doing. Thank you so much, Anna, for having me.
Thank you.
And my mum.
Say hello to Mum, Lorraine.
Thank you.
If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyoumama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider, that's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.